Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti. Blessings be on the speaker, the one who would always speaks the words of truth and the words of wisdom. And blessings be on the listener, the one who herself or himself has uncluttered the vacuum. This time I said vacuum. I was inquired a very important, a very significant question. Somebody inquired or tapped into a very significant matter, and they said, they wrote me in detail, which is the best thing. The communication is very important and the communication is very necessary. They wrote me in detail and inquired about why it is so difficult just simply be. You see, sometime we all humans, there comes a point in our lives that we all human really get tired of the drama going on. So they basically are getting to the point where they are getting tired, and they ask the question that why cannot we simply be? Why it is so difficult for us to simply be? In other words, what they are asking, that why can we on times just rest? Because if you see and you realize, if you pay a little focus, a little more attention to yourself, you would realize there is not as much going on in your surroundings. I would repeat, there is not much going on in your surroundings, but within you there is a tremendous amount of a storm tossing and turning for the most part till we go to sleep. When we wake up in the morning, the storm starts. It's not as intense at this moment in time, but as the day progresses, the storm progresses. And by the mid of the day, let's say 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the storm is on its peak and it wears you out. It makes you tired, because what you essentially are focusing on just about anything, something which is not real, something which is your thinking process or thoughts. They are not real. The only existential reality they have is within you. If it was real, or if it did have any existential reality, everyone would perceive the same reality. You understand? I'm looking into it as simply as I can so everyone can understand. You understand? This is what happens every day and numerous times a day. For the most part, our day goes by like this. There is a storm within us all the time. I'm including myself too, basically, because as I said in numerous retreats, that nobody is better. Some of us are just more aware. However, there is no storm goes on in my awareness. I have transcended and I have learned to control the storm. And that only happens when you take a step towards your well-being and your life goes through the total transformation. When you learn the truth and you unclutter yourself from the lies. You see, just remember, and know this, that almost just about everything we have learned, just about everything we have learned is a conditioning. You see, when we are being raised and we are younger, we are told just about by anyone in the family, the parents, the siblings, no matter what culture you go, no matter what country you go, these traits are same in every culture, in every country. I'm not just talking about a specifically American culture or British culture or Hispanic culture or African culture or Indian culture. These are the known cultures that I know of. But I have been half of the world. This is something you do not know about myself. But that's okay. This video is not about me. This video is to answer the inquiry you have as the why cannot we simply be. You see, this much wisdom I'm pouring out without any thinking. That only can be attained when your vacuum is empty. You see, imagination. Now let's talk practical. What I have been talking since I started answering your inquiry, I'm talking practical basically. Every day in your day, at least this much you owe, that you make some time and you understand all this. You see, when you understand all this, you can understand just about anything. Okay, let's talk more practical. Imagination and thought process plays a very significant role in your life. You live almost all the time there. Even when you are talking to somebody, you still are living in your imaginations and in your thought process, which is very fragile and does not have any existential reality. However, it plays a very significant role. I'm answering your inquiry, by the way, so I hope you're paying attention to everything I'm saying. So imagine there is a vacuum. You see, I want you to imagine there is a vacuum. So in that vacuum there are numerous thoughts flying freely. And you basically, what you essentially are is the vacuum. Means you have the liberty and freedom to focus or zoom in to one thought. That's what we understand as focus. You see, but what a transcendent person, a person who is not controlled by their thoughts, as most sages or yogis or the rishis, that they have attained, they have achieved that kind of self-awareness. However, an average person, what happens to an average person, I'm not talking about the exceptions, the yogis or the wise people or the sages. I'm talking about an average person. An average person, imagine, as I ask you to use your imagination, quiet. Imagine a vacuum. Now, what happens is, when you imagine a vacuum, thoughts are just flying. Numerous thoughts are flying everywhere. And you are the vacuum in which the thoughts are flying. Whether you understand at this moment in time or not, just be open to it. And then you would understand. I promise you that. So all the thoughts which are flying in that vacuum, the vacuum is you. The vacuum, when we are in human body, when we are in human form, we are just like the cylinder or the vacuum in which the thoughts are flying, and the energy is conserved or concentrated at one point. The energy is the birth given by consciousness, which what we fundamentally are. So what basically is happening when you zoom in or zero in at one thought, that's what you understand as focus. Now here, what's happening is a thought is taking on another thought, and that thought is taking on another thought, and another and another. Remember the rubber band ball? I gave you the metaphor of the rubber band ball that you actually tie or make a rubber band ball, and after that you try to separate the rubber bands, and that does not just happen because it's impossible now to recognize which rubber band is which. It's just now it has taken a form of a ball. So that's what it is. You board on one thought, and then you board on entire universe. It's all happening in the vacuum where the awareness is concentrated. You see the vacuum, and it gives birth to this vacuum. So you board on one thought, you have no control on it now. Once you board on the thought without even realizing that you have boarded on the thought, because you are not alert, unfortunately. Or you means not personally you, I'm talking about all the human race, I'm talking about an average person. And then you just go. Once you have boarded on the thought, it would take you anywhere, and you think having no control on this is natural, but I can promise you there is nothing natural about it. You see, all these thoughts which you have boarded is a type of karma. It's the thoughts basically you have boarded on is karma, and basically based on karma, all these thoughts, and you understand or you think or you make an assumption that this is natural. There is nothing natural about it. It's just the lack of attention takes you there. So you understand what exactly I have told you. I have told you that in order to simply be, you have to empty the vacuum where the thoughts are flying. Otherwise it would just not happen. It's not possible through the laws of the nature to have it both ways, that you want your psychological drama or you want your thoughts and you also want to simply be. It's not possible through the laws of nature. You can only simply be when you have emptied the vacuum. So when there is a situation arises or when it is needed, you can zoom in or zero in on a particular thought. Otherwise, your vacuum, the cylinder, the vacuum remains totally empty. You see? When it is not needed, it remains totally empty. People such this poor person or people like this poor person, the thought process and psychological drama wears you off or wears humans off. You understand what I'm saying? Because energy is being wasted for no reason. You see, somebody said something nasty 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago or 1 day ago, but the energy is being wasted not by remembering. It means remember. You are remembering all that, what has happened, and you are the one who is perceiving your emotion. The person does not know what you are going through, but you are remembering and you are perceiving first, okay? And then you are planning, or in your mind, unfortunately, that you want to get even, or whatever the scheme you are doing. You are wasting the energy, the precious carnation, the jivan in that. And if you want to live in that kind of nasty psychological drama, I have a news for you, and the news is you cannot simply be. You understand? You have to let all these traits go. You do not sit around and think about an unpleasant situation or somebody said something nasty. When a situation arises, a pleasant or unpleasant, it's only natural for you that you would respond to it if you only trust yourself. But unfortunately, there's a lack of trust too. So you have to let all this go. Then you can simply be, then you can sit. Sometimes I sit for numerous hours or longer period of times, and I am simply be. I have no thought process or a psychological drama going on that somebody said something. So I'm telling you that these are small things. That first you have to cut the bands from these conditions that you have learned. First of all, you need to cut the bands from these conditions that you have learned. You need to let these things go because they are not playing any role in your vacuum. These are just the thoughts, and the more focus you have on these thoughts, the more energy is being wasted for nothing. Because you are the perceiver of your own emotions. You are the one who is perceiving anger. Don't you see that? So when you are the one who is perceiving resentment, you are the one who is perceiving sadness or insult or whatever the titles you may have made, you are the one who is perceiving these negative emotions. Nobody is being affected but you, because you are the first who is perceiving that. So you cannot have it both ways. That's the news for you. And it's a good news, because these things are nasty anyway. They are useless. They are not doing any good to anybody. They have created tremendous amount of indifferences among humans, but you still do not let it go. And then you want to know, how can I simply be? I'm not criticizing or passing judgments on anybody. It's petty. I'm just showing you what's happening. I'll give you an example. Okay, I'm setting myself as an example. This video is not bragging about me, because as far as ego, there is no ego, and I can see that way. However, to make you understand, you see, how I carry myself. If I am at work, and I'm sure that my work friends here also silently and quietly follow me here and watch my videos, they know also. You see, if I am at work, I just dress up like a normal person would do, a little different from a normal person, but more or less like, so you can, be accepted. Because you're working, you have to maintain you have to follow the rules of that particular business. It's a given, and it's good. But if I am not at work, you see, that's important now. If I am not at work, I am like this for the most part. You see, this, the Shivaji. So I'm like this for the most part. That's how I carry if I'm not working. And you see, this is my personal liberty, that I do not let anyone affect me. And I, unfortunately and sadly, face time to time, not very often, that's also a good news, but time to time, sadly, I face passive resentments. I feel it. I don't think it, but I feel it. Sometimes I hear that when I'm communicating to a person. As I said, I do not make videos to refute any religions, you see, and I have not done so. I have told you that religions are human constructs, but taking on a particular religion and refuting it, that I don't do that. However, but most of the time when I am in a company of somebody while I'm talking to them, and I am feeling remember the word. I choose my words very carefully, or at least I try to remember I said I'm feeling, I'm not thinking, but I'm feeling a passive resentment towards me. Because of course everything is yelling about me. This person is a Hindu. Of course I am a Hindu. I have been a Hindu last numerous lifetimes, and I probably will be a Hindu in the next life too. And I am proud of it. So ignorance, unfortunately, is a disease, and half of the population lives on that ignorance. So when I feel that kind of resentment from a person, it's prejudice, of course, because I'm a Hindu. And most of these people who show or exhibit that kind of energy or try to prove that from their actions are religious people, you see. But because are religious people, and because somebody is being uncomfortable as how I carry myself, as long as I'm not harming anybody, you see. This is my liberty to carry myself the way I want it. I'm not going to change that just because you are being resentful. And my intention is not ill. I'm not saying any bad thing. I am not doing any of the negative things. And I am harmless. And I am practicing my liberty. That's all I'm doing. I'm harmless, practicing my liberty, and this is my liberty, that I would carry myself the way I want to carry myself. If you are having reactions by looking at me, or you are a religious person and your religion, basically you think your religion is being crucified by my presence, that's on you. That's your psychological drama. And of course, when you live in this type of psychological drama, you cannot simply be. Then you can only be resentful, then you can only be angry. And what happens is, let me tell you something. As Jesus Christ, or Lord Christ, which I uphold as the biggest, as the brilliant mystic, not the biggest, but I uphold him a brilliant mystic. He said, the one who lives, those who live by sword would die by it. You understand what I'm saying? So those who live by sword would die by it. It does not necessarily mean a physical sword. The one who does not have comprehension of the wisdom would probably think he's probably talking about a physical sword. No. If you live your entire life looking at other people while they are practicing their own freedom and being resentful about it and trying to harm them, God forbid me, in your mind, or scheming against them, or at the very least trying to make them uncomfortable. Your religion, no matter what religion you follow, I have a news for you. Your religion cannot save you. You see, you have practiced something in your entire life. It has now imprinted on your karma. You understand what I'm saying? It has now imprinted on your karma. Just at the last minute, when the hour of death arrives, somebody says, I repent, or God, no. No, it doesn't work like that. You have transformed what you essentially are. You are essentially energy. And you know what's happening here? You have transformed all these negative traits in you as a part of you. Now it has imprinted on your karma. And such an individual, when they pass on, when the hour of death arrives, and when they pass on in misery, in a lot of pain and in misery. All the cultures, including the religions and all the wisdom traditions, would tell you, please, or they would say that, do not let me pass in the misery or in resentment or in anger. You see, these people, they pass in misery. They pass over in misery. They pass over in full of resentment. They are full of, they carry a lot of resentment, and that's how they pass on. And when they pass on, they you can just only, and we all can just only say, may you find some peace, but that's not gonna happen. Anyway, well, I'm just trying to tell you what happens. Okay, so I communicate with these people, okay, and I feel the kind of resentment or trying to make me uncomfortable and stuff like that. But what happens is, through the devotion and the dedication to my practice, by making some time every day solely and solely for myself, and through taking some time just sitting and practicing is simple even meditation every day, the level of tolerance and the level of letting things go actually comes very up. So when a situation like that arises, when I find myself in a company of some type of unpleasant person who's trying to play these games, I deal with it just right then and there. I do not sit around and contemplate, however. When a situation arises, it's only natural because I trust myself. So I deal with it. When I say I deal with it, most humans would automatically jump into the bandwagon and would say, oh, maybe through violence, or maybe getting physical, or getting into a fight, or rage, or arguments. Maybe he deals with that. None of that I use. None of that. You see? The less your personality becomes, the more your presence becomes. So I feel that they are trying to make me uncomfortable passively, but they are overwhelmed by something within me. I see that. So I do not do any of these nasty things, that getting into a fist fight or exchanging arguments or doing any of these things. I just deal with it. I listen, if as long as they are not touching me or physically harming me, I have no reason, of course, even to defend myself, but I just move away from the situation. When they are doing that, I move away, and of course nobody's gonna follow, or at least most people don't do that. However, I remove, that's one of the way peacefully to deal with a situation, that without getting into a rage or anything like that, I remove myself from the situation. Now I do not remember, now I do not use my imaginations afterwards. As soon as it's time for me to go, but I have answered your question anyway. As soon as I remove from the situation, for the most part, or for the most time, it happens that I leave everything about that experience. I just don't sit around and think about the person's color or how the person was talking. Most people, you see, most humans, they do it, but it's unnecessary. I do not sit around and think about the person's color or the person's race or how the person was talking. Did the person have an accent? Where the person came from? How dare the person? This, that, all the nasty traits. Most humans live in this. I leave everything. It's not important for me to get involved in these things. You see, when you are letting all this go, then your vacuum is empty. You understand? That's the answer of your question. When you are letting all these nasty traits go, when you move from a situation, the situation is not there anymore. There is no reason to think about it either, because it cannot change anything that at any given moment in your life. You see, what it is changing, unfortunately, what it is changing right now is just that you are bringing your focus voluntarily to an unpleasant thing, and then you are creating negative energy just by thinking, just by remembering. You don't understand, but I can promise you, Universe is not punishing you, but universe is not blessing you. You understand what I'm saying? Know this. Universe, what you understand, or what your understanding of universe is not punishing you, nor it is blessing you. Universe is only giving you back what you are putting out there. You understand? Universe is only giving you back what you are putting out there. So be very careful what you put out there. You see, if you are putting out there that you have even left an unpleasant scene, but now you are creating, even if you are not acting on the words, but these are the thoughts. Even if you are having the thought about it, you are creating it and you are putting it out there. You are not vocalizing it. You are not verbalizing it. You see how much vocabulary I use? But you are putting it out there, basically. You understand? To make you understand, as simple as humanly can. So you are putting it out there and it would give you back. It's a given, it's a promise. No Christ or religion or anything can stop this. You see, if an individual put all this negativity out there, universe would give it back to that individual. Then there is no forgiveness that somebody died for your sins. It's a drama. It's a lie. Nobody died for anybody's sins. You are responsible for everything what you do and you think and you put out there. Okay? Nobody can escape that. It's the law of the nature. What you put out there, what somebody puts out there would receive it in return. It cannot be avoided. It cannot be avoided. It cannot be forgiven by the universe. It has to come. It's inevitable. So let us, all of us, be very, very careful what we are putting out there. See, so I have answered your question that when you unclutter or cut the bands of all these negative traits, then you can simply be, you cannot have it both ways. That no, I want to keep my psychological drama, or I want to keep my negativity, or I want to keep my thought process, and I also want to simply be. No, it's not happening. You, basically the being, the being, is trying to just handle. You, the being, is just learning and trying to handle the liberty and the freedom the being has. See? You have all the liberty. You can make anything out of yourself. Anyway.